Okay, good evening, everyone. As we are co-sponsored by the Rezepkowitz family, in honor of their parents, we're co-sponsored by Mr. and Mrs. Eddie Chazan, L'Refuah Shalema for Shoshana Bas Panina and Simone Bas Rachel. We're co-sponsored by Binyamin Rivlin, Lila Nishmas Yitzhak Ben Ram Yehuda Alevi, by Shelley Zeitlin for his children, Eliana Rit and Ora, by Barak Goldwasser, L'Refuah Shalema for Moshe Meir ben Esther Fadl and Dov Meir ben Chaya Gittel, and Akars HaTov to the Shir, by Shalom Fogel, Nishmas Yaakov Zeh ben Yehuda Aryeh, Rivka Bas Yaakov Yosef, Tivya Miriam Bas Gad, and Yosef ben Tzion ben Yaakov Zev, that their neshama should have an aliyah. We also want to learn, my mother has a lifelong friend. I don't even know her Hebrew name, but her name is Eva Fogel. She passed away today. Her husband, Izzy, who was a very, very close friend of my father, passed away in the height of COVID. And now his lifelong wife, Eva, who used to live with us in 4600 14th Avenue, we grew up with them. She passed away today. Her neshama should have an aliyah. Also, I heard in Eretz Yisrael, Dr. Ezra in Staten Island, Dr. Ezra Gempel passed away. Ezra Gempel was, for a while, an attendee of this share of the Daf Yomi. His neshama should have an aliyah. We want to take the opportunity to welcome in Irving Fishbaum, Nachman Chapler, Saba, Avigdor Fried. Very happy to have you, Avigdor Berish Gesman, Dov Selkowitz. Dov, I know it's a sacrifice for you to be on so late, so thank you for coming. Eddie Chazan, and Marshall, coming in the cold, very cold weather over there. Mel Zachter, Yaakov Warman, Shalom Fogel, Yitzi Fuchs, Stephen Holtzman, Chaim Lerner, Dr. Guy, Ruvain Shannet, Gedalia Engel. Gedalia, you've been missing in action. It's good to have you back. Rabbi Kranz, Moshe Lehman, Jay Siegel, Chaim Braun, A. Barbach, Michal Chavin, Avram Rezepkowitz, Ilya Shutman, Mo Kushner. Good to see you, Mo. Looking good. Mo is going on 98 and going strong, Baruch Hashem. Wow, it's amazing. At this delayed night time of the night, already we have 28 Zoomers. David Helfgott is joining us. It's great to have all of you here with us. We are holding by Gufa, which is the last.
My brother got COVID. That's what happened on his day.
What's
Tzvi Levi ben Nachava.
Hersh Tzvi Levi ben Nachava? Okay. You should have a Refuah Shalema b'seich Shachel Yisrael. That's your older brother, right?
Yeah, my older brother.
Older brother.
Okay.
Okay, look at this. We hit already 31 Zoomers now, as we are being joined already by the one and only Barry Cement, and Yeshua Shmuel Eisenberg, and Dr. Block has just joined us to hit 30 Zoomers. That's great. Gufa. The Gemara had told us, it was the opinion of Rami that if he sacrificed, top line, Samach Gimel Amud Aleph. Top line, Samach Gimel Amud Aleph. So again, Zibach Kita V'nisach Behelam Echad, if he sacrificed, smoked up either a carbon or incense, and did libations all in one state of an awareness, Einoi Chayev Ela Achas. He's only chayiv for one time. Amar Abaye, my time in the Rabami. What's the reason, Rabami? Amar Kra loisa avdeim. You should not worship them. Hakasav asan kulon avoida achas. The pasuk makes them all one shame, the shame of service. So therefore, he's only chayiv one chatas if he does it unwittingly. Says the Gemara, Mi Amar Abaye Hachi. Is this Abaye's opinion? Ayva Amar Abaye. Abaye tells us shalosh hishtachavoyis ba'avodis kechavim lama. Why does it say bowing down by idolatry 3 times? Achas l'kedarka. 1 if you do it the normal way. V'achas shaloi kedarka. And 1 if it's not the normal way to worship the idol. V'achas l'chalek. And 1 to tell you that you're chayiv for each act a separate chatas. So you see that Abaye holds that we do say l'chalek, and therefore you would be chayiv independently for the sacrificing, for the libation, for the smoking up the incense. Says Gemara, you're right. Abaye was just explaining Rebbe Ami. He doesn't hold that way. L'dvar of the Rabami Kamar, he was just explaining Rabami, but he doesn't hold that way. He holds that you learn out from an extra that you're chayav for each and every one. Gufa, now let's analyze again Abaye's statement. Gufa, Amar Abaye, shalosh ishtachavoyis ba'avodis kechavim lama. Why does it say 3 times bowing down by idolatry? So, achas, 1 is the kedarka, for worshipping in the normal way. V'achas shaloi kedarka, 1 for not the normal way. V'achas l'chalik, and 1 to tell you that you're chayiv for each act a separate chatas. So the Gemara says, l'kedarka, I don't need loisishtachva for kedarka. That I know from the pasuk of Me'echa yavdu hagoyim ha'ela nafka, that if you do it the way that the goyim minister. So we already know kedarka. Says the Gemara, ela achas kedarka v'shaloi kedarka. 1 is where it's not so normal. In other words, this avodah zarah they usually worship with sacrificing. But bowing down is not considered strange. So since it's not the normal way, we need 1 pasuk for that. V'achas l'shaloi kedarka, and 1 where it's not the normal way, like for example, Baal Pa'ar, which is normally worshipped with defecating, or Merkulis, which is normally worshipped with stones. V'achas l'chalik, and 1 to tell you that you're chayiv a separate chatas for each one. We have the pleasure of welcoming in Yitzi Muller for our 32nd Zoomer of the evening. And again, I'm really appreciative to everybody for stretching yourselves, for coming on at the late hour. I know it's not easy, and I thank you for making it possible for me to be able to go away. Now, Hamakabel alav be'eloka, the be'eloha. If he accepts it as his deity, ha'aymer lai eliata. If he says, "This is my God," Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Rav Barvo, Amar Rav, Kevin she'amar lai eliata chayiv. Once he says, "You are my God," chayiv. Lamai. Well, obviously, Rav Nachman is telling us something that we don't know from the Mishnah. With great pleasure, we welcome in Baruch Ian for our 33rd Zuma of the, there's Lag Ba'omer, and now there's Lag B'daf, because of Baruch Ian. Baruch Ian is like the Lag B'daf. And Baruch, we are on Samach Gimel Amid Aleph, and we are about a third of the way down the daf. So the question is, what's Rav Nachman adding? Rav Nachman doesn't teach us Mishnayos. So the Gemara says, Ila Ketala, if it's telling us that if he says it, he's executed, if he does it willfully, Mas Nisani, that's a Mishnah. Ela Lekarbon, it's coming to tell us that if he does it unwittingly, he has to bring a carbon. Now this is Va'afil, says the Gemara, is this Va'afilul Rabbanan? Is this true even according to the Rabbanan? The Rabbanan seem to hold that you're not chayiv a chatas for words. Va'afilu Rabbanan, v'tanya eina chayiv ela al davar sheyesh by ma'aseh. You're only chayiv for something that involves an action. Kegain zibuach, v'kitor, v'nisach, v'ishtachava. Like sacrifice, smoking up, libations, and bowing down. V'amarei shlokish man toni hishtachava. Who holds that bowing down is considered an action, even though it's a minimal action? Rabbi Akiva, da'amalei ba'ina ma'isa. According to Rabbi Akiva, it says you don't need a major action. Michlal, the Rabbanan savrei ba'ina ma'isa. That implies that the Rabbanan hold that you need a ma'isa, and therefore, if the Rabbanan hold that even hishtachavo you're not a chayiv a carbon, then for just saying Eliata you surely wouldn't be chayiv a carbon. So the Gemara says you're right. When Rav Nachman cited this in the name of Rav, as we welcome in Naftali Jablin for our 34th Zoomer of the evening, when Rav Nachman said this in the name of Rabbi Baravua, in the name of Rav, he was taka going according to Rabbi Akiva. Kikama Rav Nami, the Rabbi Akiva kama. Says the Gemara, the Rabbi Akiva. According to Rabbi Akiva, Pshita, of course if he says Eliata, he's going to be chayiv. Hainu megadef. It's the same thing as blasphemy. Blasphemy is also words. Says the Gemara, Ma'od, the same Ma'ad kan like Mechayiv Rabbi Akiva carbon, Ela b'megadef, by blasphemy, dichsiv be'koros. Because the Torah says outright by blasphemy that there's chorus. So anything that has chorus, if you do it b'mezid, without asra, there's a chatas b'shoigeg. Aval hacha, but over here, by saying Eliata, the like siv be chorus, it doesn't say expressly in the Torah chorus. Aimaloi, I might think that there's no carbon. Kamash malan, there's skushe iskish, because they are juxtaposed. Dichsiv, vayishtachavulai, vayizbechulai, vayimru. They bowed down, they slaughtered, and they said. Oh, so therefore, saying is a hekish, and therefore, since it's a hekish to other things that have chorus, there's going to be a chatas in the event that you do it b'shoigeg. So now the Gemara says an interesting thing. By the Egel Hazav, the Jews did a terrible thing. They said to the golden calf, Eila Elohecha Yisrael, this is the God of Yisrael, Asher Helucha Me'eretz Yisrael, that took you up Me'eretz Mitzrayim. Now, Helucha with a vav is a plural. So the Gemara says in defense of Klal Yisrael, since they said plural, at least they didn't say the Egel did it alone. They included God with it. So Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Ilmole vav shebehelucha, nischayvu risheim shel Yisrael kliya. The risheim, of course, the euphemism for Klal Yisrael. Klal Yisrael would be deserved to be destroyed, because then they would have said only the Egel Hazav. Since they said a plurality, at least they were attributing credit also to Hashem. So the Gemara says, well, not everybody holds that way. Kitanoi. Others say, if not for the vav, which makes it plural. So they're giving some credit to Hashem. Nischayv v'rishem shel Yisrael clear. Klal Yisrael would be chayv destruction. Amalei Reb Shimon ben Yochai, what? Including Hashem with the Egel is any better? Whenever a person partners Hashem with something else, nekam in ha'ilam, they'll be uprooted from the world. Shenema bilti la Hashem levade. It's only Hashem alone. Elamatam Midloimer Asher Halucha, She'ivu Elohus Harba. They desired many gods. In other words, their mistake was, they believed in Hashem. I mean, they saw the Makkahs, they saw Kriyas Yamsov, but they held that Hashem had intermediaries, and that the intermediaries also could be worshipped. So they worshipped the sun, and they worshipped the calf also. They got benefit from the calves, so they worshipped that. So, but since the Maharsha says that their mistake was just that they thought that these were intermediaries of Hashem, they did not suffer total destruction. Now the Gemara continues, and it's really wonderful to see Chaim Braun joining us, and who else arrived rather late. I don't remember now, but it's great having all of you. It's really great having everybody joining us, even people in 8-degree weather, with a wind chill factor probably of -10. Am I right about that?
Yeah, even lower.
Does that give you more car business?
Yes and no. People don't want to go out, but it hurts the cars too.
Okay, but Marshall doesn't miss Daf Yomi for hockey games. Aval hamagapef. The Mishnah says if you hug the idol, v'manashik, you kiss it, hamachabed, you sweep in front of it, v'amarabetz, you sprinkle wine in front of it. Ki aser avdimi amar Rabbi Lazar, al kulam loike, for all these activities, sweeping. Where are we up to? Did somebody ask that? Somebody just not muted. Hold on. Okay. So anyway, al kulam loike, for all of these activities like kissing, hugging, feeding, there's malchus, chutz me'anoide b'shmai v'amekayim b'shmai, except for swearing in its name and making an oath in its name. So, ma'ishna hanoide b'shmai v'amekayim b'shmai deloy loki, that there's no malchus, mishum david le'lav shem b'y ma'isa, it's a lav that doesn't have an action. Hani nami, the sweeping and eating, feeding and giving to drink and sprinkling and hugging, they should also not have malchus because lav shebekloloisu. It's learned out from a lav that teaches us many. It's learned out from a lav that teaches us many things. Ve'ein loikin a lav shebeklolois. What's the daddy of a lav shebeklolois that we say that you're not loike on a lav that teaches us many things? It's a general lav. The Tanya, minayin lo oichel min abehema koidim sheteitze nafshe shehu b'loisaseh. How do you know that if you eat from an animal before you shechted it, but it's thrashing around, and you eat from it while it's thrashing around, how do you know shehu b'loisaseh? It's not even menachai anymore because you shechted already the majority of the two simanim. But how do you know that it's a lav to eat it while it's still thrashing? So we know that because it says, Lo yisoichlu al adam. You shouldn't eat while there's still some lifeblood in it. Davar achar, Lo yisoichlu al adam. Lo yisoichlu basar, don't eat the meat of the carbon. Vadayin dam b'mazrek, while the blood is still in the clay sharis, in the basin, and it wasn't sprinkled on the mizbeach. Can't eat the carbon before the zrika. Rabbi Daisa, Minayin Shei Mavrin al Haruge Bezin. How do we know that we don't serve the mourner's meal to someone whose relative was executed by the court, you should not give the food for someone that was executed. Rabbi Kiva, Sanhedrin Shahorgu as Hanefesh. How do we know that a Sanhedrin that caused someone to be executed, She'ein Toyim in Klum Kolois Hayom, the Sanhedrin can't eat that day, they can't taste anything the day that they caused someone to be executed. You shouldn't eat if the blood was resulted. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, also, as Harala ben Sarah Myra Minayin, how do we know that there is a prohibition to be gluttonous and to be gluttonous and guzzle wine, to be a gluttonous guzzler? Minayin Tamalay Malay Seichlu shouldn't eat aladam, which will cause one to be executed. In this case, the Ben Sarah Myra. Al Kulam, for all of these laws, let's say the Sanhedrin ate on the day that they executed someone, Einoi like it, there's no malchus, Mishum Davadi Lav Shebeklalas. So therefore the Gemara says you shouldn't get malchus. And by the way, from Lo Seichlu Al Adam we learn out yet another thing, that you shouldn't eat before davening. Learn out Lo Seichlu Kodim She'espallu Al Iskei Dimchem. Don't eat until you pray for your blood. So we should say that kissing and hugging and feeding and sprinkling, which is all learned out from one general lav, you shouldn't get malchus. Elaki also Rav and Amar Rabbi Lazar al kulan eina loike. You're right. For all of them, you don't get malchus. For the kissing, the hugging, the embracing, etc. Chutz min anoida b'shmoi v'amekayim b'shmoi, except for making a vow in the name of the idol and making an oath in the name of an idol. So the Gemara says, well, it's a lav that you learn out from a general source. Hani nami lav shem by maisin, well, swearing in the name of an idol or making a vow in the name of an idol, that's a lav shem by maisa. Dibur is not a maisa. Says the Gemara, no, it's going according to Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda holds that you get malchus for a lav shem by maisa. This is a famous opinion of Rabbi Yehuda in Shas. How could Rabbi Yehuda, the Amar lav shem by maisa like in a lav? You get malchus for a lav shem by maisa. The Tanya, for we learned in the Brisa, the Korban Pesach, you shouldn't leave past the morning. And you would think that if you leave it past the morning, you should get malchus. But kosev litain asay achalois. But it says va'noisim imenu ad boiker be'esh tisrei. For what's left past the morning, you should burn with fire. So that makes it a lav anitik la'aseh, a lav that's connected to an asay. And the din is loyma she'ein loiken alav. Div Rabbi Yehuda. Now you see, Rabbi Yehuda says it's because it's a lav anitik la'aseh, not because it's a lav she'ein by ma'isa. Because Noiser is no Maisa. You didn't do anything. You just left it. Indeed, Reb Yaakov Amar, Loimin Hashem Uzeh. It's not because it's a lav anita glaseh. Elam Mishim Davilei lav shem by Maisa, but kol lav shem by Maisa ain't like an olav. Now, since Rabbi Yehuda doesn't say that reason, he says because it's a lav anita glaseh, Michlal Rabbi Yehuda savar like an olav, that there is malchus. Now, since there's malchus, so that's why over here, for making a vow in the name of Avodah Zarah, swearing in the name of Avodah Zarah, there would also be malchus according to Rabbi Yehuda. Now, Michal Akta comes in as our 35th Zumer of the evening. 35th Zumer with a daf that started at 9 o'clock. Marshall, I'm telling you, 15 more Zumers to the promised land. And I just want to point out to you, Marshall, that Mark Frankel has been missing in action, so he would have been 36. Aaron Swade is missing in action, so he would be 37. So you're really getting close. I mean,
Rabbi, what's the real deal on this with Marshall? You've said it many times. I'm new to the job. What if you promised him? I hear it that I can't.
Oh, okay, Marshall. at one point, Michal, we had 50 Zoomers. And when we got our 50th Zoomer, Marshall got a 6-pack of bourbon, big bottles of bourbon delivered to his house. So we need 50 Zoomers. As soon as we get 50 Zoomers, as soon as we get 50 Zoomers, he gets another 6-pack of bourbon. So you just got to work on it, that's all. Because Marshall desperately needs it. I mean, he's drying up. You still have some left, Marshall, right?
I'm dehydrated.
It's no good. You had 4 or 5 bottles the last time Avigdor was here regularly. So, Avigdor, do you remember us sending the bourbon? You don't remember.
I think so.
Yeah. I keep my word. 50 Zoomers.
All your son brought it over.
Yeah, that's correct. Now, okay. So anyway, says the Gemara now, Hanoida b'shmai v'amekayim b'shmai. If you make a vow with the name of the idol and swear with the name of the idol, harizeh b'lo saseh. So the Gemara says, Hanoida b'shmai v'amekayim b'shmai minala. And how do we know that if we make a vow with the name of an idol, or we swear with the name of an idol, that you're over alav Tanya, v'shem elihim lo yisaskiru. And the name of God you should not cause to be mentioned. And you should not mention. That's why you can't say, wait for me next to that Buddha. Wait for me next to that Buddha. Lo yishama al picha, it should not be heard upon your mouth. Shelo yidar bishmai, you shouldn't vow with the name of the idol. V'lo yikayim bishmai, and not only that, v'lo yigru la'acherim, you shouldn't cause others sheyidru bishmai v'yikayim bishmai, that they should make a vow with the name of the idol or make an oath with the name of the idol. Davar achar, lo yishama al picha, it should not be heard upon your mouth. Azhara le'mesis u'lemadiach. That's a warning against somebody seducing an individual or somebody subverting a community. Says Gemara, subverting an individual. Mesis behedik sirbeg b'chol yisrael yishmu v'yiro. We put to death the mesis, and everybody should hear and be afraid. V'lo yazidonayid, and they shouldn't do like this. So we already know that you're not allowed to seduce an individual. El azhara lemadiach, it's an azhara to subvert a group. V'lo yigraim la'acherim sheyidru b'shmai v'sheyakaymu b'shmai. You shouldn't cause others to vow with the name of the idol or to swear with the name of an idol. Messiah le'lavud Shmuel, this is a proof to the father of Shmuel. The Amr Avud Shmuel asala adam shiyasa shutfis ima'ivit kechavim. It's forbidden to make a partnership with a idolater. Why? Because you might have a disagreement with him, and he's going to swear by the name of his idol, and you caused it by making a part with him, lest he be liable to swear. And the Torah says, Lo yishama al picha, it should not be heard al picha, because of your mouth, the name of the idol should not be heard. If you remember, I told you that one of the reasons they say, because we're coming very close to Purim now, smart people break out their Megillas already. Smart people break out their Megillas. Simple people break out the bourbon, but smart people break out the Megillas. And, it says, Esther said, Kavuni l'dairais, affix me for all generations. She wasn't looking to have her name in neon lights. She was saying that the lessons of the Megillah are lessons for all time. So there's a famous question, why is Hashem's name not mentioned anywhere in the Megillah? So one of the answers is because since the Megillah was introduced into the Chronicles of Paras and Madai, if Hashem's name would have been written, then the Persians and the Medes would have put in their deity's name instead, and would have caused them to mention the names of their idols, and it's not supposed to be Lo Yeshama Al Picha. Says the Gemara Vayta.
It's also Lefnei Ida.
Yeah, so that's a big shaila if there's Lefnei Iva by Goyim. We did have a Gemara that there is Lefnei Iva by Goyim, but it's a machlokes. Ki also Ula, when Ula arrived, Bas B'Kalnavai, he resided in Kalnavai. Amalei Rava, so Rava, when he saw him, asked him, Vehecha Basmar, where did the master spend the night? Amalei B'Kalnavai, he spent the night in Kalnavai. Now, Navai is the name of an idol, and Kalnavai is just that we make light of it. We're supposed to, we're supposed to mock the idols, like Rabbi Reuven called the Pope the popsicle. You're supposed to mock the idols. So Rava was surprised that Ula said the name of an idol. You're not supposed to make the mention of the name of an idol. Any idol which is mentioned in the Torah, you're allowed to mention. So he says, where does it say Nevo in the Torah? Dechsiv Kara Baal, Baal squatted down, Keres Nevai, and Nevai had diarrhea. So we see that it mentions no. The like Sivalai, and if it's not written in the Torah, you're not allowed to say it. Masav Rab Mishashia Ra Achas Meruba B'Shalosh Keshalosh. If a person saw, this is an incidental halacha. We know that if somebody sees 3 issues of zav, of biblical gonorrhea, he's a zav gadol and he has to bring a korban. He has to count 7 days. What if he saw 1 long issue of ziva, achas meruba keshalish, shehi, which is the time it takes to see 3 issues, and have 2 tefillas in between each one, and drying off as well. Shehi megid gidyon l'shilai, which is the time it takes to go from gidyon l'shilai. Shehem shtei tefillos, which is the actual 3 sightings of issue, and 2 tefillas, and shtei sefugin, and 2 drying yourself off. How he says Zav Gomer. Then he's a Zav Gomer, even though it was 1 long interrupted issue, and he has to bring a korban. But Gideon, God, is an Avodah Zarah. So the Gemara says, Amar Ravinan, God nami michtav ksiv. It says God also in the Torah. The ksiv ha'orchin l'God shulchan. They who spread a table out to God. Now we know litzanis is a very big sin. Litzanis is I told you many times that a letz is somebody who thinks he's lamad and tzaddik. It's made up of a lamad and a tzaddik. He thinks he's learned, and he thinks he's righteous. Right? He knows better than everyone. So litzanis, cynicism, is always prohibited, except when it comes to idolatry. You could mock an idol. Let's see the Gemara inside. Amar Rav Nachman, Kol letzinusa asira, all mockery is asir, chutz meletzinusa d'avodas kechavim d'shai, except for mockery of idolatry, that's permitted. The chsiv kara, Baal, Baal squatted down, keres nevai, and nevai had an accident. Kersu, they squatted down, karu yachtav, they kneeled together, lo yachlu maleit masa. They weren't able to relieve themselves of their burden. They had a hard time defecating. They had a hard time moving their bowels. V'chsiv dibru le'eglois beis oven, speak about the calves of beis oven. Yaguru shochein shamran, be afraid, the dwellers of Shamram. Ki evil alav amai, the people of these idols were mourning over it. They were mourning the constipation. Ukamarav alav yagilu, and their priests were happy. Al kfoidoi kigila mimenu, because of the honor that was revealed from it. Al tikre kfoidoi el kveidoi. They were happy that they finally were able to get rid of their burden. They were able to go to the bathroom. Of course, this is a complete mockery that they weren't even able to go to the bathroom and move their bowels. Omer of Yitzchak, my dichsiv va'ata yoisifu lachatoi, you continued to sin, v'yasel lehem masecha mikaspam, and you made molten images from your money, kisvunam atzabim, like their image idols. My kisvunam atzabim, what does it mean, like their image idols? Malamid shekol echad ve'echad, each one carried, you remember that superstitious people used to carry on their keychain a rabbit's tail? Shekol echad ve'echad asa demus yirasai, they made a mini image of their deity. Umanichai b'kisai, and they put it in their pocket. B'shasha zeichra, and when they remembered it, maitzia miteicheikai, they took it from their bosom. Umechapka umenashka, they would kiss it, hug it, and kiss it. Ramiller would say often that it's thankful that the goyim around us don't have idol worship. Because if the goyim around us had idol worship, there would be many Jews that would secretly carry a little getchka in their pocket in order to hedge their bets. It's just that the goyim don't even do it, and therefore, Baruch Hashem, we don't have anybody that does it. The Gemara tells us, we have it in our kinnis on Tisha B'Av, that Yidden were guilty of having secret idols, and they would have double doors in their bedroom, and the idols would be hidden behind the bedroom doors, half behind one door and half behind the other door. So when they would make an inspection, they wouldn't find them because the doors would be open flush against the wall. And then when they closed the doors, the two halves of the idol came together. And they would have secret idols. I remember when Reb Kenny Alman told me, there was a Rav in Flatbush, he told me that he once went into a electronics store, a Jewish electronics store, and he needed to buy a air conditioner. And the owner asked him if he could put the air conditioner in a television box. So he looked at him and he said, "Why would you want to put my air conditioner in a television box?" So he says, "Because I need the air conditioner box for those people who buy secretly televisions." That's what Marshall figured that out already. So anyway, people don't need televisions anymore. So says the Gemara, "My zoifchei adam," what's the meaning of the pasuk? Those that sacrifice humans, agolon yishkun, kiss the calves kiss them. Amr Reb Yitzchak the Bei Rab Ami. This is a little bit reminiscent of the great tragedy of the Inquisition, that the Inquisition would see rich people, and in order to get their possessions and their mansions, they would figure out ways to concoct an accusation that they were secret Jews in order to bring them to the burnt at the stake and take all their money. So the Gemara tells us over here, Amar Rab Yitzchak debei Rabami, sheyemeshose avodis kechavim, the priests of the idolatry, noisnin einayim bebalei mammon, they had their eyes on people that had a lot of money, and they wanted to strip them of their wealth. Umarivim es ha'agolim, they would starve the calves that they worshipped. V'oisin dmus atzabim, and they would make a sculpture of the rich person and make a mini sculpture of them, and they would put it by the calves, and after they were starved, they would put the image by the trough. Umamidam b'tzad evuseyen, they would put the image near the trough. Umutzian oisan l'chutz, then they would take the calves outside. Kevan shiro osan, when they saw the rich person who they saw the image when they were eating, rotzin achreim, they would run after them. Umamashmishim behen, and they would nuzzle up to them. Aimrim lai, and then the priest would say, Avodas kechavim chafetz bach, our idol wants you. Yavai v'yizbach atzmai lai, we're going to have to sacrifice you to them, and then they would take their money. So the Gemara says, while these abominations happened, that can't be the pshat in the pasuk. Amar Rava, Hai zoichvei adam agalon yishakan, would it say sacrifice people and then afterwards the calves kissed? Agalon yishakan, it should say first the calves kissed and then lizbayach adam ebayle, and then that would cause the people to be sacrificed. Ela Amar Rava, kol hazeveach es benoi la'avodis kechavim, whoever offered his son as a human sacrifice, Amalai, the priest would say, Doirin Gadol Hikriv, you offered a great present, Yavai V'yishakla, you could come and kiss the calf, you could come and kiss the Avodah Zarah. Rabbi Yehuda Amar Rav, Rabbi Yehuda says the name of Rav, V'anshe Babel Osu as Schais B'nais. The Anshe Babel made as an idol Schais B'nais. Umay Niu, what is Schais B'nais? Tarnagolis. You see, Schais B'nais means it is the hen covers its children because it protects its children, hovers over its children, and therefore they worshipped the hen. V'anshe Kus also es Nargo. They worshipped the Nargo. Umay Niu, Tarnago, the rooster. The Anshe Hamas also es Ashima. They did the barren one. What's the barren one? The bald goat. Umayniu Barcha Karcha, a bald goat. Va'avim also Nafchan. Nafchan we'll see is a dog, which is Navach, ves Tartek. Umayniu Kelav Chamor. The Mefarshim say they don't know how the word Tartek becomes a donkey. Va'sefarvim, the Sepharvim, Sorfim, Espanayim, burnt their sons, Vespanayseim, and their daughters, Be'esh, in fire, Ladar Melech, Va'anomelech. Elahei Sepharvim, the gods of Sepharvim. Now, what are these? Omayniu Apered Vasus. They offered them up to a mule and a horse. Adar Melech, Adar is a lashon of honor. The Adolei Lamare Betina, the mule honors its master schlepping for him. Va'anamelech, the Adolei Lamare, it answers its master Bekirva by battle. The sus answers its master in battle. Now, the truth of the matter is that Chizkiah, Melech Chizkiah, his wicked father, also wanted to have him worshipped to an idol. Af Chizkiah Melech Yehuda Bikesh Avav, his father wanted, Lasasle came to worship him to idolatry. Elashesachsa Imai, his mother saved him, by coating him with salamandra, with salamander, which is fireproof. Rabbi Yehuda Marav, you know what? They know that idolatry is ridiculous, right? Einayim lahem v'lo yiru, they have eyes, they can't see, right? Aznayim lahem v'lo yishmo, they have ears, they can't hear. They know it's ridiculous. But if they accepted the idols, and the idols did all kinds of immoral things, so that allowed them to do immoral things. That's the whole Greek mythology, which they learn in the stupid colleges. A lot of people take the Greek mythology because it's an easy course and it's interesting. But they gave to the gods all kinds of vices, incest, homosexuality, all kinds of abominations. If God could do it, then they could do it. Therefore, they only accepted idolatry, that they could engage in immorality. Moshe Rameshashia, what do you mean? What do you mean that the Jews didn't desire idolatry and believe in idolatry? Kizachar b'neihem mizbechaisam, like when they remembered their children, their sacrifices. Amar Rabbi Lazar, the longing for idolatry is ka'adam sheyesh legaguan al b'nai, like a person pines for a child. So you see that they pine for the idol. Says Gemara, yeah, that's after they got used to doing it. After they got used to it. Initially, they only used it as an excuse to be licentious, to be promiscuous. Tajma, v'nasati pigreichem al pigrei giluleichem. I will put your corpses on the top of the corpses of your idols. The Gemara says a terrible story. Amar Eliyahu Tzaddik, Eliyahu Tzaddik hayamazer al tfuchei rav sheb Yerushalayim. He was going around by those whose bellies were swollen from famine in Yerushalayim. Pam achas, matzah tinach, he found a child, sheyet tefuach. He was all swollen. Umutu ba'ashbi, he was lying in a dung heap. Amalai, so he said to him, Be'ezer mishpacha, from which family are you? Amalai, I'm in mishpacha ploinus ani. I'm from this and this aristocratic family. Amalai, so Eliyahu said to him, Klum nishtayim oisim mishpacha, was anything left from your family? Amalai lav, no, chutz mimeni, I'm the last survivor. Amalai, so he said to him, if I teach you something with through it you'll live, atalamad, will you learn it? Amalai, the child says yes. Amalai, so he said, Emor b'chol yom, you should say every day, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. Mimekabel Omar Shemayim. Here Yisrael, Hashem is God, Hashem is one. Amalai, the child said, no, that goes against all that he was taught. Chas, Amalai, Has, be quiet. Don't mention something that I wasn't taught by my father and mother. Immediately he took out from his pocket a little getchka from his bosom. He hugged it until his stomach split. And the getchka fell on the ground, and he fell on top of it. I will place your corpses on the corpses of your idols. So you see that they were so attached to it. So again the Gemara says, that's the way things are. Initially the Yetzer Hara got them to do it only for an excuse to engage in immorality, but afterwards they became very attached to the idolatry. Okay, Rabbi say we're going to learn the Mishnah Yomis now. A reminder that tomorrow night we will have a Chumash share broadcasted by then already. I'll be Be'ezus Hashem. I have a 3-hour trip tomorrow, and tomorrow night I hope to be broadcasting from Deerfield Beach.